obviously the arrival of Andrew pushed things to the limit. And I remember my initial comments about Andrew when people on my show would ask me about him is I said, when I see Andrew, as opposed to commenting on what he was saying, I said, what I see here is a desire for these words. And so the fact that Andrew is so popular and even exists is because there's a thirst from men to consume this type. And he reminds me a bit of, Dan Pena with the suits, hard talking, this is how it is, old school alpha.
Snap out of your sheep mindset.
Yeah,
yep.
And I'll be honest with you, Joule, if you look at the history of the London Real guests, if you want to put me in the psychiatrist chair, it's actually me searching for alpha male role models.
Interesting.
It really is.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Profiled yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah, because if people are always like, they always used to ask me, how come you don't have more of this and more women and more diversity? I was like, it's my show and I want to have the person in the chair. But we look at all these figures from Dorian Yates to Dan Pena, they're all alpha males teaching me how to be a better male. And it's not a comment on my father, he was a great one, but I think it takes a village of males to teach you how to be a great man. And I also think you're always learning. And you need to continue evolving as a male. And so that's what if I'm really honest, that's what London Real is. And
amazing.
So Tate being popular was a sign, it was really that there was a problem, in a weird way.
Something was lacking.
Yeah. And so your thoughts on that, and then obviously, this recent victory of Trump and a bunch of other masculinity coming to the top. I wouldn't say we've solved the problem, but it's changed a little.
Isn't it interesting? The whole history repeats itself. It sounds cliched, but it's so true. Things that go way too far to the left, way too far to the right. That search for balance is a tricky one. That's why I don't necessarily think humans and democracies are a real credible way to run a country. Ideally, you have a benevolent dictator who just cracks on with getting the job done like we see here in the UAE, as opposed to, I'm going to appeal to the left, I'm going to appeal to the right, I'm going to do the populist thing, and it's messy. I think I was lacking that, and I think every man's seeking guidance on how to be the best man they can be, right? We're tribal animals, we're meant to be around men. Even the modern day structure of one man, one woman lives in a house with a bunch of kids, is that natural? Are we meant to be around a wife all the time? Are we meant to be out with other men hunting, raiding other villages, expanding territory and so on, if we're talking back in the good old days? And I think it's natural for a lot of men to find themselves doing what they should do. I've got the job, I'm saving for the kids' university, I'm celebrating Valentine's Day, trying to make my wife happy, and then I just go, wait a sec, this isn't actually that fulfilling. This doesn't actually gel with my deep-seated natural urges to go and conquer and build and seek combat and seek risk and be around the brothers. When are you happiest? Is it in terms of your inner state? Is it when you are at all times going back every day, back to the house, which is very comfortable, could be an amazing wife, comfortable house, or when you're out with the lads, facing risk, when you're fighting, when you're training, when you're going to any form of combat? When do you feel most alive as a man? When do you feel most invigorated? When do you feel you're living naturally? You'll never sleep better, this is known amongst a lot of veterans, except after a gunfight. Like that's the deepest sleep you will ever have, because you're fulfilling your masculine path that you should be on. It's a very interesting thing. And I think as much as the system tries to make men, and it does, I don't believe in victimhood, but the system, modern culture, and the West up until, very recently with Trump coming in, hopefully it all changes, has been pushing men to be good little obedient sheep. Go and, be in a frustrated marriage, but there's Pornhub. Watch your testosterone drop, but hey, you should be happy with that. No, you don't have time for hobbies and things because happy wife, happy life. Like all these things are pushed on men, and it just leads to a lot of lack of fulfillment. And we see it especially in the younger crowd, where the Tate really appeals to. The teenage and young 20s guys, they've got so much testosterone. They've got so much urge to go out and do the whole fight, fornicate, build, conquer, but they're being told by society, no, you shouldn't do that. Sit down, essentially adopt feminine qualities, and if you go to the gym then and try and be muscular, that's a microaggression, you shouldn't be doing it. So I think it was inevitable that Tate would blow up, because he speaks directly to that, wait a sec, what the modern day culture wants me to be as a man doesn't lead to any fulfillment. It's okay, to quote Tate, it's okay to want to be the guy who can fight. It's okay to want to have the big muscles. It's okay to want to have the pretty, submissive, giving girlfriend. It's okay to seek these archetypal desires of men. But modern society has tried to say, no, that some way a bad, unethical person, should you try to do that. So Tate was always going to blow up.
How did we get here?
I have a bit of a theory on that, and I know that you're a pretty sort of open-minded guy, so I think both the political and economic powers that be want to control the masses, right? This is what we know. And spending a lot of time around, leaders and politicians and things, especially back in the day, the question is always, there's a lot more of the masses than there are of those. There's a lot more of the have-nots than there are of us, of the haves. How do we keep the have-nots suppressed or comfortable? I mean, back in the day, it was go and watch the bullfighters, in the gladiator sort of environment. There was always, entertain the masses, keep them busy, these sorts of things. Nowadays, it's things like football or alcohol or pornography. But there's this ongoing challenge to control the masses, right? Because we want what the elite have, and there's a lot more of the masses than there are of the elite. Politically, it's a lot easier to get people to vote for you if you are scared, if you are divorced from any sense of faith, if you are unhappy in a relationship. You're going to do what you're told if you are beaten down as a man. If you are that plow horse, head down, pulling through the fields every day, you just do what you're told. A lot of men, when they get married, they become self-regulating citizens, right? To quote Tate again, I can't protest at 9 p.m. I've got to be home by then, or the wife won't give me what I want. They become controlled. I think that's why that very sort of femme-centric relationship model is pushed. You can hook up with a woman, but you've got to keep her happy or she can take half your stuff and you're the bad guy who can't see your kids. What a perfect way to control men. So that's the political piece, to make sure that the men are easily controlled. And also, no leadership anywhere in the world, if we're talking politically, wants men to be very much faith-based, bound together with their other brothers, free-thinking, armed, capable of combat, because that's a threat to their leadership of the country, right? So that's the political piece. If we look at the economic piece, I think it's something like 80% of consumer decisions in Western households, predominantly US, are made by the woman. There's that much of the power that's been given to the wife in these relationships, or given up by the man. Why is that? Again, if you're a man who is competent, faith-focused, has his brothers around him, he has a real strong family, has an amazing relationship, you don't need to go out and buy the latest iPhone in order to feel secure as a person. You don't need any of that external rubbish. But if I want you susceptible to marketing messages, what a perfect way to do it. I'll just make you deeply unhappy in your heart. I'll make you long for any sort of sense of self-worth or achievement from external stuff, so that you're susceptible to marketing messages, so I can push things at you. So again, politically and economically, both of the powers that be, and I used to work at one point in a psychological operations unit. I know how messages are pushed onto people by governments, and also I've worked in big corporates and marketing with marketing teams. I know how economically messages are pushed. What a perfect way to control the sheep and to get them to do what you want to do, just crush masculinity entirely and make you thirsty, instill that mental thirst for the validation of a female. You will not be any threat to any government, and you will buy exactly what the marketing tells you to buy. If you wake up every day and all you want to do is just try and, once I get that love of that woman, then I'll be happy. Oh, now I'm married. I just got to keep her happy. You become a self-regulating citizen. And with respect to the women out there, it's the men who overthrow governments. It's also predominantly the men who make most of the money in the households. I mean, statistics will show that's not a misogynistic statement. It's true. How then do we keep the men from threatening the political elite? And how then do we keep the men spending on what we tell them to spend? Everyone wins from masculinity being pushed down.
But in the short term, the woman of the household thinks she wins because she gets more control. And as humans, and you've seen the good and bad of humans all over the world, in the short term, we all want more control. And so they get that control, maybe they like it, they get a little more control. And then they go all the way down that path and they realize they no longer respect that person.
They resent instead, yeah.
Right. And so that's the slippery slope of feminism, perhaps, or maybe that control dynamic.
100%. And you can see it. One thing I often say is that feminism robs predominantly women of fulfillment in life. Feminism has put a dark stain on femininity. It's labeled a woman who's sensual and looking to support a man as somehow inferior to a woman who's all masculine and in the corporate world. I'll ask you this, bro, because I was in the corporate world for some time. Have you met a woman, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't, who's done decades in the corporate world and is fulfilled? Once. I've met them who are capable, strong leaders, making a lot of money, but once you get to know them, you see there's a real lack Every single time. Has that been your experience?
I used to joke about the women I used to meet in London in banking, and
Wow.
I remember when you'd meet them, they'd go out of their way to rattle off their entire CV and had to project power in the conversation. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? The men don't do that. But I think it's because they felt like they maybe had to show you they're not lacking.
Yep. And typically they'll obsess over material possessions, or they'll be pets, or they'll have a husband who's basically a pet. I see a lot of very powerful corporate and business women who go and find themselves a professor, an academic husband, sort of as a, oh, here's my trophy husband.
I think Oprah had a few husbands like that.
Oh, really? Oh, very submissive.
Yeah.
But hey, he's a professor, he's a doctor or something. It's in the same way a guy goes and gets some, perhaps a bimbo type, stereotype wife as a trophy wife. I see a lot of these business women getting trophy men, and I think this is where we're very different. I think for a man to be fulfilled, ultimately, we need mission, we need challenge, we need struggle. That is our primary indicator of whether or not we'll be fulfilled as humans. For women, yes, they can have mission, yes, they can have, of course, go and do whatever you want, I don't care. But for a woman to be fulfilled, my lived experience, what I've seen is that it predominantly comes down to the relationships in her life. And if there is not an intimate partner with which she is essentially wife to a good man, then you can give her all the achievements in the world, all the status, all the money, she won't actually be fulfilled on a deep level. We need struggle, it builds us. I've seen struggle pretty much break most women, unless they're quite masculine anyway, which is a very small demographic, and exceptions to the rule don't negate the rule, as we know. So I think it's a sad state of affairs where feminism is pushing away that natural polarity between men and women, and essentially I think women are the biggest losers when it comes to feminism. Show me a fulfilled feminist, bro. I'm yet to meet one.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.